So there's one other thing I found useful to do before leaving on a trip to tackle travel anxieties, and that's to live my life and be myself. One of the reasons for going on this trip was my book, The Mind Workout, that came out this past summer. When I struggled with mental illness, I wasn't doing any writing. I couldn't write, even though that was something I really, really wanted to do. I was spending all of my time and energy on compulsions. And then a trip would come along and I'd be terrified that something bad would happen. The house would get broken into and everything would get stolen. The plane would crash, the train would crash. I'd get killed on the trip somehow, I'd get sick, or something terrible would happen. And that would prevent me from doing all of the things in life that I wanted to do that I'd been putting off because I was spending all my time on compulsions. And it wasn't just kind of big things like writing books. Just in so many ways, mental illness is about not being ourselves. I wasn't putting any time into just being me, even in simple things like conversations. If I was getting into a conversation, if somebody said they liked something and I didn't like it, I would say I liked it. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to avoid conflict. In so many ways, every single day, I was constantly not being myself. And so I was moving further and further away from being me. And of course, that was terrifying. I kept telling myself I'd be me in the future. I was always sure that, in the future, some magical thing would happen and I would, not deal with any intrusive thoughts, not deal with any anxiety. I'd have all this confidence, and then I would be me. I would do all these things that I actually cared about. But the more I chased after those feelings and tried to feel confident and tried to get rid of anxiety, all I got was more anxiety. I put anxiety at the center of my life. Everything I did was about reacting to anxiety and problems and intrusive thoughts and whatever my brain could throw at me. I wasn't living for myself. I was only living for fear. It's totally natural and normal that we become anxious wrecks if we're putting all of our time and energy into not being ourselves, living for something else, like anxiety or fear. The more we put anxiety in charge of our lives, the more anxious we get about anything interfering in our lives before we've had a chance to actually live them. The solution to this, though, isn't to focus in on the anxiety. It's not to focus in on travel anxiety. I have to solve this anxiety so I can have a peaceful trip. Again, that's just putting anxiety in charge of our lives. The solution here is to live our lives. The solution is to practice being you, not just in discrete moments, but in every single moment you have each day. It's natural to be afraid of death if we're not living our lives. So long before you go on any trip, look at how you're spending your time and energy. So much of building better mental health or recovering from a mental illness is simply about the practice of being ourselves. Develop a strong practice of accepting uncertainties and doing things that matter to you. That's the practice of being you, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And if you develop that strong practice, you'll be able to take it with you on any trip, and you'll be so much more capable of handling any uncertainty your brain can throw at you. Happy traveling.